On December 7th, 1941, there were no Hollywood cameras, no Hollywood actors such as Ben Affleck or Josh Hartnett, just thousands of American soldiers tragically killed in an unprovoked attack. It's your boy Gary, the urban historian, and unfortunately, this is where it happened. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't be so hard on 2001's Pearl Harbor. After all, it was actually a decent film and educated many on the tragedies of the 1941 attack. Many servicemen and women, however, did die on that tragic day. But before we get into those details, let's take a look at the history of Pearl Harbor. Before Pearl Harbor became the home of the United States Pacific Fleet, it was simply a bay on the island of Oahu. It was first called Waimomi by the Hawaiians, which simply translates to Waters of Pearl. In 1875, the United States and the Kingdom of Hawaii signed the Reciprocity Treaty. This led to the United States gaining access to Hawaiian products such as pineapples and sugar. At first, the Reciprocity Treaty worked out in both favors, but American greed and capitalism led to the overthrow of the Hawaiian government in 1893. And in 1899, the United States established Pearl Harbor. The major question about December 7th, 1941 remains. Did the United States have prior knowledge about the attack? It has long been rumored that naval intelligence officers warned the High Command about an impending attack. No one quite knows for sure. What is known for sure is that on December 7th, 1941, more than 2,000 American soldiers were killed and another 1,200 wounded when at 7:48 in the morning, 353 Japanese aircraft launched a two-wave attack. 188 U.S. aircraft were destroyed. The next day, President Roosevelt gave his famous Day of Infamy speech, and America formally entered World War II. The horror and carnage of that day would sadly be taken out on many Asian Americans, as many of them were forced into internment camps during the war. Many saw this as a tragedy in itself, and many thought that this reeked of insensitivity and racism. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, let the Empire of Japan know that December 7th, 1941 was a futile mistake. On September 2nd, 1945, the Japanese surrendered aboard the USS Missouri, officially ending World War II. Right, if you're ever fortunate enough to visit the island of Hawaii, you should definitely check out Pearl Harbor to pay your respects. Now, having recently visited Pearl myself, here are a few tips. Get there bright and early. It definitely gets crowded. I mean, super crowded. Be sure to go to the visitor center and purchase a ticket. They have tickets much cheaper than online. They'll try to rob you online. So just go there, go to the visitor center. Tell them the urban historian sent you. I'm just playing. They don't know me like that. All right. If tickets are sold out, which happens a lot, don't fret. Just put your name on the waiting list. Many people don't show up. Many people get lost track of time or, something like that. So you might get lucky. While you're visiting Pearl, you definitely want to check out the many museums they have dedicated to the attack. You also want to be sure to check out the USS Missouri, which we just mentioned earlier, where the Japanese surrendered, ending World War II. But of course, many people come for the solemn visiting of the USS Arizona. That's where like a lot of sailors died, and some of them are still entombed uh, below the ship's deck. And you can actually see that there's still oil leaking from the USS Arizona. It's quite marvelous, but also solemn at the same time. So yeah, those are my tips. If you're ever in Hawaii, going over to Pearl, you won't regret it.